Meanwhile, a conservative columnist was suspended by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch after she defended the National Rifle Association from comparisons to ISIS. Here's an excerpt from her opinion piece, quote, "This failure to represent the opposing, especially conservative view is an increasingly apparent deficit in the news reporting apparatus in our country." That columnist is Stacy Washington, and she joins us now. Stacy, thanks for joining us. Now, you were suspended by the newspaper. They said you were unpaid spokesperson for the NRA, and you decided to quit, right?
Absolutely, Charles. So this is something that I had no qualms about after reading the series of emails that notified me of the suspension itself. And to be on the record, I had no professional affiliation with the National Rifle Association, and the column wasn't about the NRA. It was about the kind of editing process and thought process in newsrooms across America that would permit an editor to allow a guest opinion writer to compare ISIS and law-abiding, gun-owning American citizens who happen to be members of the NRA, or they may not. Not all gun owners are members of the NRA. So I talked a little bit about the NRA, but the majority of the piece was about the left-leaning news apparatus in this country. And for that, I was suspended.
So essentially, you were fighting two fights, the First and Second Amendment on this one.
Right. So, Charles, I'm writing in the piece and I say, at the very end, I close it out with, you know, this kind of practice requires introspection in newsrooms across the country. And introspectively, they suspended me. They said I had a professional affiliation with the NRA, that it was undisclosed. And as so many people know, I've been on this program, I've been on yours. I've always been an open Second Amendment supporter. I'm a veteran. My father was in law enforcement. And so my background is guns, guns, guns. And so I've never hidden that. I'm proud to be an NRA member, but the piece isn't in any way diminished by the fact that I am, because me being an NRA member doesn't change the fact that NRA members are not like ISIS.
Right.
Nothing in the column can be impugned by the fact that I may or may not be a member of the NRA.
Stacey, I mean, the newspaper, I mean, they knew where you were coming from. They knew where your stance were on NRA, gun ownership, and those things. So why this action? What do you think made them take this really drastic action all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, so I was the only conservative opinion writer on the editorial page. Sometimes they would take syndicated columns like Charles Krauthammer and George Will, but I was the only local person. And so often I would write columns that would provoke a lot of comments on the Facebook page, and people have written me. I have a whole file folder in my office at home of people who've written me by hand, mark my columns up. They're liberals. They send insulting notes, and they always mail them to the Post-Dispatch, and they forward them to me. And I think I was kind of a fire starter there in that there's so much left and not enough right opinion-wise that it was always almost an insult, just the fact that I was writing a column.
Right.
But this piece, I talk about the dwindling subscription numbers, the circulation numbers being down for papers across the country. I talk about confirmation bias. And Charles, you know this, we look for news that supports our views, but for news, straight up news, hard news, it should be neutral. It should be reported so that we can make our own choices. And that's all I was trying to say.
Well, you're absolutely right. I could tell you it was a brave thing you did. You garnered a whole new fan base, and congratulations. You took a stand, and I think obviously you'll be proven correct. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you so much, Charles.
Well, the latest out of Venezuela.